Pune, India. And before I begin my talk, I would really like to thank ARWA, the International Association for Archaeological Research in Western and Central Asia, for inviting me to deliver this lecture. As well as I would also like to thank ARWA for organizing this session. And so I'll begin with my title, which is A Study of Animal-Based Subsistence During the Indus Valley Civilization, Recent Insights from the Ghaggar River Basin in Northern India. So I think most of people, scholars who are working on South Asia and would be definitely aware of the Indus Valley Civilization, which is one of the oldest civilizations in the region of Northwestern Asia and of Southwestern Asia, sorry. And this particular civilization did have a very long tenure. It started somewhere in the 3rd millennium and then ended around in the 2nd millennium BC. It developed along in the Indus River basin with its very important sites like your Mohenjo-daro, Harappa. And today, in the kind of research which has been going on, because there has been so much of focus on this particular civilization, both from Western and Indian scholars, that a lot of information regarding new settlements, new excavations, and new material culture, different types has been revealed. So my focus is on looking at the interactions between humans and animals during this particular civilization, because animals, as we all know, have been very important since the prehistoric times, not only as providing just food, but also giving all kinds of raw materials, giving security, and so many different aspects related to their relationship with humans. So this forms a very important aspect of the Indus civilization as well. And here we have different types of sources are now available to us, because we know that the civilization has yielded so many different kinds of material objects depicting different kinds of animals, right from your rhinoceros to the humped bull to elephants, fish, and we see a lot of terracotta animal figurines. So these are very important sources for understanding this kind of relationship. But one of the best ways would be to look at the actual animal skeletal remains, which we are getting from many of these sites. And some of the earliest studies which started for the sites of Mohenjo-daro and Harappa somewhere in the 20th century. Since then, a lot of archaeological research has been going on for this particular civilization and in parts of Pakistan and the Indian subcontinent. So today, from the kind of explorations, excavations which have been going on since the early 20th century, we know that the civilization had not just focused in the core Indus regions of, say, Harappa or Mohenjo-daro, but we are also seeing that it had extended far into the Indian subcontinent, going eastwards right up till, say, the Uttar Pradesh state of northern India. So northern India, through explorations by people like Colonel Todd, Orlstein, Tessitore, Ghosh, Dalal, Surajman, and a lot of many researchers have explored and reported a large number of sites, which some of very important ones have been excavated. For example, Kalibangan, then Kunal, Rakhigadi, Banavali, Bhirana, Girawad, and so forth. So there's still a lot of investigations are going on in this region by many of my Indian counterparts, and they are coming up with a lot of new archaeological findings. So I'm focusing on this particular river basin, that is the Ghaggar river basin. So this Ghaggar is also termed or referred to as the ancient Saraswati in our Vedic mythologies. And it is considered to be one of the holy rivers which sort of suddenly disappeared, and it might have caused the decline of many of these inhabitants in this area. So the Ghaggar takes its rise somewhere in the Shivalik part of the Himalayas, and it flows down through the present day states of your Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan, and for a little while it also goes through Pakistan region where the Ghaggar is referred to as the Hakra, and from there on it flows into the Great Run of Kutch in the southern region where it is sort of disappears into the salt wastes. Now this Ghaggar river basin, we have, as I had said earlier, has reported a large number of sites and a lot of excavations have been going on. And so we have a lot of data which is coming from this particular region, and it is showing that it could be a very important, crucial region for really understanding the development of the Indus Valley civilization. As was said earlier, that it probably originated in the Indus Valley core areas, but now maybe we could be coming up with some more new findings. So this is what the whole northern India is, and this is the great Ghaggar river, and you can see all these settlements which are located here. Now in this region, the kind of excavations which have been done and the explorations have shown that many of these sites which are there have a really long cultural sequence, because very often we get settlements which are just showing the terminal phase of the Indus Valley civilization, say like the late Harappan period, or the major part of it, that is the mature Harappan period, which was the most flourishing. But now from northern India, we have many sites which are showing some very early levels of the civilization, which could give us clues to our understanding of the development of this particular civilization in this region. And the kind of material culture, which is also extremely interesting, because today, whatever reference point for the Indus Valley civilization, its origins, we always sort of compare it with the Neolithic site of Mehergarh, which is located somewhere here in the Balochistan area of Pakistan. And this is a Neolithic settlement with ceramic levels start somewhere in the 7th millennium BC. And we have always tried to see that Mehergarh is one of the key areas for, where we could understand the development of this particular civilization. So coming back to the northern India and the Ghaggar region, these settlements are also showing certain kind of characteristics like Neolithic way of life in its early levels, which are mostly in the form of their subterranean pit dwellings, the kind of ceramics, which are the Hakraware ceramics. These are mostly having mud brick structures. And we also see some human burials associated with them. And so this particular phase becomes very interesting, and it is an initial part of the development of the civilization. And of course, from many of these sites which are excavated, from their early levels, we are also getting large quantities of animal remains, which again become very useful for trying to trace the exploitation of different kinds of animal resources right from the beginning of the civilization, or even prior to it in the, say, the pre-Harappan levels, and going on up till the decline of the civilization somewhere around 1300 BC. So this is just to give you a fair idea about the cultural sequence which will be seen in these areas. Here you can see these are the sites from where faunal remains have been studied by myself and some of my colleagues from Deccan College. And we are seeing that most of these settlements start somewhere in this early Harappan period, and many of them go on up till the mature Harappan levels, up till 1900 to 1800 BC. And some of them are found to continue even into the later period, and even further than that into the Iron Age painted graveware. So we see that in this particular region, we are seeing a complete cultural continuity, which is that sites continue to be occupied for such a long period of time, and there is repeated occupation. And of this, there are certain sites like, for example, Bhirana and even the site of Kunal, which has yielded some pre-Harappan levels, which are for the first time have been sort of studied in an excavated context, because most of these pre-Harappan levels which have been observed at sites, say, in the Cholistan desert of Pakistan by scholars like Mughal, And many of these sites have not been actually excavated. These are found on the surface, but at sites like Jalilpur, he could identify and said that, the pre-Harappan levels are underlying those of the early Harappan. So that means they are much more older. And it's a very different phase than the Indus Valley civilization. So this is one important findings from this particular region, that we are reporting this kind of pre-Harappan Hakraware phases, which sort of continue into the later Indus Valley civilization in this region. Now, these are some of the fauna studies which have been carried out. Earlier, people were mostly from the Zoological Survey of India and the Archaeological Survey of India, but in the last you can say 20, 30 years, myself included, with some of my seniors, they have been working on many of these sites, both in northern India as well as in parts of Gujarat, where we have a large number of Harappan settlements. And we are coming up with a very, very sound archaeozoological record for this entire civilization from these two regions. So these are some of the sites which have been recently excavated, where faunal remains have been studied. Farmana, which was excavated by my department, Professor Shinde, who was the excavator of this. They also found symmetry at this settlement. Then you have the sites, our ongoing faunal studies are going on for this site of Rakhigadi, which is considered to be one of the largest in this region. And a lot of faunal remains have been recovered, which we are studying. Also, the site is recently has yielded symmetry, from where it has been possible to extract some ancient DNA, which is really tough in our in the Indian subcontinent, given our tropical humid conditions, which makes it really difficult to do such kind of extraction. So this was one new recent work which has been done for this particular site. But here I will be focusing on the site of Birana. And this is a site which was excavated by the Archaeological Survey of India for 3 seasons from 2003 to 2006. And they were able to carry out the excavation on a very large mound, which is located on the banks of the ancient Ghaggar River. And almost 70 trenches have been excavated, and a large quantities of faunal remains were recovered. Of course, so far we have been able to do it only partly because doing such kind of archaeozoological studies does take a lot of its painstaking work, takes a lot of time analyzing all the remains. And here, based on the radiocarbon dates which have been obtained on charcoal, as well as OSL dates of pottery, as well as the kind of cultural finds which are reported from this particular site, we have been able to, the excavators have shown that it has got a 4-fold cultural sequence, which starts somewhere in the pre-Harappan Hakraware period, and it goes right up till the mature Harappan period. So, and in the earliest levels, we have some very early dates which have actually pushed back the antiquity of this settlement, going back as, nearly 8,000 years before present, in a way contemporary with Mehergarh, you could say. So this makes it, today it has the credentials of being one of the oldest Indus Valley settlements in this region. This is just to give you the cultural chronology which has been reconstructed based on the dates. So we find that the settlement started with the Hakraware cultural period, period 1A, where the people were living in some kind of subterranean dwellings. There were no structures over the ground. A very small part of the settlement was occupied. And but they were in these pit dwellings which are there. Some of them were occupied, were meant for residence, but some of them were also used for some kind of craft activities, maybe something to do with copper working, and some of them were also refuse. So here, a good amount of finds have been reported, like triangular cakes, you have querns, crucibles, church blades, and also a good number of faunal remains have been recovered from this particular time period. And from here, we find that the cultures continue into the early Harappan, mature Harappan, going on up till the main mature Harappan phase, that is around 3000 BC. And the settlement comes to a decline around 1800. BC. So what we see here is a very long continuous cultural record which has been recovered from this particular settlement. That is why it becomes very important and significant for understanding the development of the Indus Valley civilization in this region, as well as for understanding these kind of human-animal interactions which were going on in this particular part of the Indian subcontinent, as well as the Indus Valley civilization, because this part, that is the northern India, is considered to be an eastern domain of the Indus Valley civilization. So this is a very important area today. So after the excavations, post excavations, a lot of the almost all the material, archaeological material, was shifted to our archaeology laboratory at Deccan College, where it has been undergoing analysis, and we are carrying out all the procedures which are used in any kind of archaeological studies, like beginning with taxonomic identification, which is a very major part. And at Deccan College, in our lab, we have a very good reference collection of all modern animals which we find today in South Asia, right from the wild varieties to the domestic animals. So it really helps us in our taxonomic identifications. Along with it, a lot of taphonomic studies are going on, have been carried out in order to see the breakage patterns, the kind of modifications on the bones, butchering patterns, any cut marks, charring, and so forth. We've also tried to understand the kill-off patterns of many of these animals, what was their age like at the time of death, and even attempts at sexing. Bone measurements have been done, and we are also doing a lot of quantification of the faunal assemblage using both NISP and MNI methods. In addition, we have also applied stable oxygen isotope analysis on the animal teeth and bone. Basically, this was done to understand the climate during the time of occupation of the settlement. And we have not gone into so much of the dietary aspects, which we will be carrying out in the near future. So these are the two aspects of the very broad aspects of the archaeological analysis which have been done for this particular sites, and presented here are some of the results from our ongoing analysis. So it is you can see this is the period 1A, where we have these subterranean dwellings from which much of our material has come out. And it is interesting that even at such an early phase, we find that a very wide range of animals were being exploited by these inhabitants, right from, we also see the presence of domestic cattle, and also buffalo. We see sheep, goat, all in their domesticated forms. We have no pigs during this particular time period, and also a good number of wild species like, antelopes. And so here you can see this entire list which is given here. So one more interesting thing is that much of the material from this Hakra period has been found to be in a very, very charred condition, burnt condition. And this kind of burning activity on the bones, we are still trying to investigate as to what could be the factors responsible for it. Was it some kind of, bones being used as burning material or as fuel? We still have no answers to that. But however, you can see some of the distribution which shows that in this time period, there is definitely a dominance of the cattle at this site. Here, it has been a little bit difficult to separate out between the bones of cattle, that is domestic cattle, Bos indicus, as well as those of buffalo, because they share a lot of similarities in their skeletal elements. And if they are fragmented, it really becomes difficult to separate them out. But a large part of the material which has been collectively put and grouped together as Bos indicus oblique bobalis, that is cattle oblique buffalo, much of that material is probably belonging to cattle, which is the dominant species here exploited. Along with this, we also see a good number of sheep, goat bones which have been exploited, along with also the use of some wild herbivores like nilgai, that is the blue bull. Then you have the antelopes, the black buck. as well as, some of the gazelle have also been reported. We also see evidence for fishing, as well as, collecting of turtle remains are there. At least 2-3 species of freshwater turtles have been documented. These are some of the bones which have been recorded in these Hakra-ware period. And here, a few bones have been found to be of some very large bovids. We are still trying to get them identified. They share more characteristics with cattle rather than buffalo. You can see some very large horn cores which are there. We had also found a large bovid skull in this particular period. And identification is still going on because of, the thing is today in the Indian subcontinent, we do not have any wild cattle species surviving excepting for the large bovid that is the gaur, that's Bos gaurus. So it's really a little poses difficulties in doing any kind of identification so far. Then one aspect which has been observed during this period is that most of the animals seem to have been killed at a very young age, and this is seen even in the case of cattle, suggesting that cattle, along with the sheep, goat, as well as these antelopes, were being hunted or killed at a young age, mainly for obtaining meat. Here you can see some of this particular chart showing the maximum occurrence of charred bones which are coming from these Hakra levels. So there was definitely some kind of activity which led to the charring of these skeletal elements, which needs to be really further looked into in the near future. Similar kind of charred remains and charring activities, as well as pit dwellings, have been reported from some of the Neolithic sites which are there in the northern part of India, that is in parts of Kashmir. You have sites like Burzohom, where pit dwellings have also yielded bones of goats, as well as some charred remains of some other animals. So such kind of comparative studies need to be undertaken more in the near future. So as we progress from the Harappan, from the pre-Harappan Hakra level, as we go into the first early phase of the civilization, beginning with the early Harappan phase, and we are seeing that animals continue to be exploited on a very slowly, on a very large scale. Cattle still seems to be the most dominant animal here, along with sheep, goat. And it is during this period that for the first time the site starts getting some built up structures at the site. People are no longer using those subterranean dwellings, and you have the use of mud bricks. You see some kind of craft specialization activities also beginning at the site. Then it goes on into the early mature Harappan, which is considered to be a transitionary period. And when we come to the mature Harappan period, this was the most flourishing period between, say, 3000 BC to 1800 BC, when the site literally expanded. There was constructions of it, also tend to get some kind of built up structures with using mud bricks. A lot of different kinds of ceramics were developed, which are of the typical Harappan characteristics, showing paintings. We also see a lot of copper objects. We also see this very, I don't know if you can see this very beautiful graffiti of this dancing girl on a potsherd, which is quite similar to the one which was reported from the dancing girl from bronze dancing girl from Mohenjo-daro. So these kind of material finds which are coming from this settlement during this particular time shows that the settlement was at its peak, and probably it was also in contact with these other settlements which were there in the vicinity. For example, the major sites like Banavali, Rakhigadi, Farmana, they were all also flourishing settlements during this time period. And here we find that animal exploitation has increased tremendously. From almost all the trenches, we are seeing animal remains coming in very large quantities. And major domesticate during this time is again cattle bones every bone you pick up, it seems to be of cattle. And in here you can see this particular bifid style thoracic vertebra, which shows the presence of this humped bull or the humped cattle in this particular time period, that is the mature Harappan period. And it is a little bit difficult to, because there are two types of cattle. You have the Bos taurus, that is the European cattle, and then you have the Indian cattle, that is Bos indicus. It is difficult to distinguish between these two osteologically. We still have not been able to report any kind of Bos taurus from many of our assemblages from other sites. But presence of these kind of, bifid thoracic vertebra does indicate the presence of these humped cattle during the mature Harappan period. It also confirms the presence of this humped bull even during the Hakra period, because there also we have been able to locate this bifid thoracic vertebra, as well as we have been also able to get these, the eye orbits of these cattle, which differ from the ones of buffalo. So from that, we are able to distinguish and say that they are definitely of the cattle. Then you get a lot of these phalanges and centrotarsals. We have tried also to do aging of these samples. So what it shows us is that basically our finding of doing aging from teeth, we did attempt, but our teeth samples are quite few, and mostly they are in a very broken condition. So it becomes a little bit difficult to do this kind of aging application on teeth. But the long bones showing the fused condition, from which we have been able to show that by the mature Harappan period, we start seeing that even older animals are there present in the collection. Some of the molars are extremely worn, and it indicates that the people were maintaining even older animals, and probably some kind of diversification was happening during this particular time of using these animals. And alternative use for evidence for the use of cattle in the mature Harappan and even in the early Harappan period is from these beautiful bull figurines which we have from this site. It's not only Birana, we have also reported them from sites like Banavli, Rakhigadi, which indicates and confirms the presence of this humped cattle at this settlement. We also have a lot of these toy cart wheels from this site, which indicate that some kind of transportation was available, that is wheel transport was there, and these are available again from the early Harappan period, and probably the bullocks might have been used for such kind of pulling such carts. Now coming interestingly, the buffalo, which is also supposed to, there are certain proposals that buffalo has also sort of, originated in the Indus Valley civilization. Considerably, very few bones of this particular animal have been recorded in almost all the levels. It is even next to cattle. It is much more after even sheep and goat, and it is a little, intriguing that why this particular animal was not exploited in such large quantities, because presently in this particular region in northern India, buffalo is the most commonly used animal. Even compared to cattle, and it is the largest provider of milk and milk products. If you go to places, sites like Rakhigadi, you just see buffaloes all over the place, and lots of cow dung resulting from such use of buffalo, both their milk and their dung. But at Birana, an interesting object which has been found are these kind of terracotta horns. And the excavator, the late L.S. Rao, has identified them as those of buffalo, because these are somewhat flattened, and buffalo horns, if you see, are much more flattened as compared to cattle horns, which are much more rounded. So on this basis, he felt that these probably belong to buffalo, and a large number of these have been recovered mainly from the mature Harappan levels. Then we have these bones of sheep and goat, which are also showing that in their very young condition, both sheep and goat were being exploited mainly as for dietary purpose, similar to even cattle. And sheep and goat, we find that its use is continued right up till the mature Harappan times, and it is even found to continue at certain sites even into the late Harappan period. So there was some kind of pastoral economy which was also being followed by these inhabitants of these settlements, where they were keeping these sheep and goat um, on the side. Here, a large number of variety of wild herbivores have been recorded. Of course, the numbers are much more limited to what we see as compared to those of, say, cattle or sheep goat. And some most commonly occurring ones are those of these gazelles. Then we have these spotted deers. You can see some of these bones, and it is not. It looks from the kind of assemblages which we have, from the kind of bones which are present, that not always complete, animals are represented. Probably they were being hunted somewhere else, and parts of the bodies were being brought back to the settlements post hunting. So that is why this could explain some of the parts which are missing and some which are present. One of the most commonly exploited animal is this blue bull. It is quite in size. It is comparable with cattle, and this is also one very important animal, also a very common animal today, even in northern India, supposed to be nuisance where agriculture fields are present, quite aggressive also. But we see a lot of exploitation of this particular animal for its concourse, and as well as may have contributed for the diet of these people. Here are some of the black buck, and in the Hakra period, we find a lot of these bones of the antelopes in some very young condition, in their very uninfused condition, being used as part of their diet. So use of wild species, we see that definitely it did not end, although the inhabitants during the mature Harappan period were sort of more urbanized and had a more urban way of living, but hunting was still being practiced by many of the probably the marginal occupants of the settlements. And incidentally, we also see that the wild pig is also represented at the site, but very few domestic pigs have been reported in the assemblages from all these periods, excepting that we see the appearance of pigs somewhere in the mature Harappan period. And this is something quite interesting, that the pig comes in, so introduction of pigs is so late in this particular region. A similar observation is also at some of these sites like Farmana, where you do see pigs, but their proportion of exploitation is much less compared to cattle or those of sheep goat. Besides this, we have also reported bird bones, but we are not very sure whether they were really eaten or, they're just some kind of accidental introductions. But we see a large number of freshwater fish. Probably they might have been fish from the nearby Ghaggar River, and these are still awaiting identification. And again, they show a lot of charring, and we also see collection of different species of turtles, mostly freshwater turtles. So along with it, you also see collection of such kind of mollusk bivalves, freshwater bivalves, which again might have been procured from this Ghaggar region. Now, freshwater bivalves are also very interesting in this area because the site of Rakhigadi has produced them in very large quantities. And in some of the burials, we find that this freshwater shell has been kept alongside some of these skeletons. So this kind of association, probably after meat being consumed, shells might have been also kept along with the graves, is quite interesting, because certain shells like those of mostly marine shells have been reported from the sites of Mehergarh along with the human skeletons, human burials. We also see it at Mohenjo-daro, Harappa, but they're mostly using marine shells. But here at Rakhigadi site, where it is so much inland, we are seeing the use of mostly freshwater clams, which are more easily available there. So trying to reconstruct the kind of butchering activities which these people had done was a little bit difficult, because not many of the bones shows such kind of cut marks or chop marks. And here you can see a few of them do show. For example, this very commonly found bones are those of the humerus, or from the forelimbs, which have been sort of chopped in their shaft, mid shaft areas. Then we also see some cutting of mandibles. We see a lot of bone shafts which have been again cut into many splinters, probably for making tools after post meat extraction. And so there was definitely a bone tool industry at Bhirana, because even in the Hakra period also a few bone points have been recovered. And as we go during the Indus Valley civilization in the later periods, the early Harappan and the mature Harappan, bone points are present there. And because this is again very interesting, because in this, along with chert blades and even flint blades, we see that bone tools were being used in this region, because besides maybe use of chert and quartzite, availability of other rock types is also quite limited in this northern India, being mostly full of alluvial plains. So a good bone tool industry was in existence during the mature Harappan period, and people might have been using them for hide working, even for making beads, things like stone beads and so forth. So these are just to show you the relative proportion of the wild versus domestic animals in all these periods. And we see that definitely the cattle has always remained the major domestic in all the periods, with a continuity in the hunting of wild throughout all the periods. Here also we see that the cattle has also remained maximum, and we see the increase in the use of cattle over time as we go up till the mature Harappan period. Besides this, we also carried out a stable oxygen isotope analysis of the bones and the teeth in order to understand that what was the climate like during the occupation of the settlement. And definitely we were able to get a very good paleo monsoon record from these teeth, though it was a real struggle because the preservation of collagen in the bones was not very good. So we could do some good extraction from the teeth. And we were able to show that when the settlement began somewhere in the 7th to 8th millennium BC, the monsoon was definitely at its peak. There was very intensified monsoon happening over this region, and it was a very well-watered region, and even the Ghaggar Hakra rivers probably had good water, which was able to support all this freshwater turtles, as well as your fish, as well as the molluscan shells. And but however, our record also showed that this monsoon, which was in such a high intensity in the early phases, starts declining, and by the mature Harappan period, it's really on a decline. And this aspect has been noted at other settlements in other parts as well. For example, even in places like Gujarat, we start seeing that by the end of the mature Harappan period, we are seeing a deterioration in climate when people start changing their cropping pattern, and there is definitely a change even in the material culture in this region. And climate is supposed to have is one of the factors which has been attributed for the decline of this civilization in this whole region. So through this study, we were really able to show how the monsoon declines towards the mature Harappan period. And in spite of that, the people still continue to flourish at this site. And but however, the settlement comes to a decline around 1800 BC. But at other settlements, the nearby settlements, we do see a continuity. For example, sites like Mithatal, then even Bhagwanpura, which do show a continuity into the late Harappan period as well. And it is believed that because of this deteriorating climatic conditions, a lot of populations might have moved further eastwards into the Gangetic Valley, which becomes highly populated by the Iron Age period, that is somewhere around 1000 BC. And by this time, the Indus civilization has already declined. So this was just to show you, this is from our paper, which this work was done in collaboration with Professor Anandya Sarkar from the Department of Geology and Geophysics at the Indian Institute of Technology at Kharagpur. And here you can see the whole isotopic record which we have reconstructed and which showed how the monsoon has declined. So to conclude my talk, still a lot of work needs to be done in this region because a lot of assemblages are undergoing analysis. But what we are seeing is that from whatever results we have so far, that these pre-Harappan people started inhabiting this Ghaggar region basin right from around 1000 years ago. And this was favored because of the good monsoon which was happening in this region, and because of which it was also very conducive for beginning of cattle husbandry practices, as well as for keeping sheep and goats. And what we are seeing is that such kind of settlements come to be established all along the course of the Ghaggar river basin. And in the early levels, we see that most of the animals were being killed at a very young age, and that was mainly for obtaining meat. But as we go further up into the later time periods, coming to the mature Harappan period, we see, especially in the cases of cattle, we are seeing presence of older animals also in the assemblages, indicating that somewhere they were diversifying their economy. The roles of cattle were multifold. It was not just a source of meat, but it was also being used as for obtaining secondary products, as well as in traction and so many other ways. It also some kind of religious or social significance has come to attach to it, as seen from the figurines. And by the mature Harappan period, we are definitely seeing that a very stable cattle-based faunal economy comes to be established in this particular region. It is also observed at sites like Farmana, and now we are also seeing it at Raktikadi, based on the maximum representation of cattle remains at these settlements. And what we are also seeing that it was not just focusing on cattle, but the people were also using other strategies, like they were carrying out hunting, they were herding, they were also stock rearing, maybe pigs and animals like that. They were carrying out fishing. There were also acquisition of aquatic animal resources like turtles and mollusks. And all this was really helping in building up the settlement, in providing a good economic base for the settlement, because Birana becomes quite important during the mature Harappan period. And as seen from the kind of some of the craft activities which were going, such as copper working, bead making, and this might have been going on in through interaction with these other settlements. So animals definitely had provided a lot of sustenance to this settlement. Here, unfortunately, the archaeobotanical remains from the site have so far not been studied. So we are not able to really correlate and say how much of contribution these botanical remains had also made, or the plant foods had contributed to the diet of these people at Birana. But from other sites, we are getting some good evidence which shows even evidence of rice and wheat, barley, millets, which come in the later time period. So it's quite likely even at Birana also plant foods might have also contributed. But I'm not commenting much on that because we do not have any data so far. And so a lot more work needs to be done where we need to do more of comparisons with other sites as well, in order to understand the modes of exploitation, particularly where cattle is concerned, because this seems to be one of the most important animals used right from the pre-Harappan times. And there have been propositions that Indus Valley might have been one of the areas where the domestic cattle has originated, and one likely region could be also the northern India, where we are getting cattle remains from such very early levels. So with this, I end my talk, and if there are any questions,